Let's start off by looking at example 14. If I gave you a percent, how would you find the decimal of that?
I'll put in the decimal place behind the 5 and move it 2 times forward.
Before we move forward, left or right? Because what does percent mean? Percent means 1/100. I mean, you're right. But again, start practicing on how to give those. What does it mean? It's if the terms you're using. Remember, you'll be teaching the kids. And it's like, how do I do that? Well, what is percent? Percent means 1/100. So what we really have here is 5/100. Whenever you divide by zeros, that means it moves a decimal to the left. So right now we have 5.0/100. Since there are 2 zeros on the bottom, that moves it 2 spaces to the left. So the decimal equivalent is 0.05. (6.3%). So eventually you do a couple of these examples and they'll start seeing the fact that wherever the decimal point is, since it's a percent, you move it to the left 2 spaces. So the answer is 0.063. (100%). So it's the decimals right after the last zero. So you move it 2 to the left, it becomes 1.0. 250%. The decimals after, because there's no decimal in the equation, it's always after the last digit. So now we move it 2 to the left, which gives us 2.50. Is 2.50 the same as 2.5? Why?
There's no value.
You're right. Yeah, again, it sounds like a trivial question, but that's going to be tough for the kids. You see, you ask them, are these the same numbers? Well, no, because that one doesn't have a zero. That one has a zero. Then what you're saying there is, are these the same? No, because this one has 2 digits. Okay, well, now anything at the end of this thing, after the decimal, what is it after the decimals? So after a decimal, anytime you see a zero as the farthest number, it doesn't do anything. Right, as you said, it serves no purpose. E, 2/3%. So the first thing you have to do there is what? A decimal, right? So we have to convert 2/3 into a decimal. Does 3 go into 2? No. So we put a decimal there. Makes it a 20. Does 3 go into 20? How many times? 6 times. 6 times 3 is 18. Subtract them. And you have 20 again. So it's 0.6. We'll have 18 again. So you see a pattern. So our answer is going to be 0.6 with a bar over it because it's just patterned repeating itself. Remember, that's still a decimal, it's still a percent. So what does it become when I drop the percent? Because right now the equation looks like this. When I have a percent, I got to move it 2 to the left. So it becomes 0.006 bar. Right, I jumped ahead. So it's 0.06666666666. Since all those are repeating, I can put a bar over a 6. And lastly, 33 1/3. Again, we got to find the decimal for 1/3. Three doesn't go into one, so I'll put a decimal. 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. Give me a 1. So what we have here is 33.33333. It's always going to keep on going. So we got 33.3 bar percent. The percent, get rid of that, so it moves the decimal 2 to the left. And then three bars. So the answer really becomes 3 bar. Because all these numbers are after a decimal and they repeat themselves. So and that's where you put the rule down from percent to decimal. Drop the percent and move the decimal 2 spaces left. From decimal to percent. What do you do there? Remember, we're going from decimal to percent. It's just the opposite of this one. Move decimal 2 spaces, which direction? And place a percent symbol. Because it's really the opposite. This one, you remove the percent and move it to the left. So the opposite would be move 2 to the right and put the percent back. So these would be your steps that they follow. And then you do a couple more examples. To help see these connections, we have percent, decimal, and fraction. What's different between those 3 words? Besides the spelling. They give us the same value, but in different formats. The numbers will be, these are all equal, except the way they look. For example, if I give you 10%, what would that be in decimal? So we're going from percent to decimal. What do we do there? Very good. So drop the percent, so it's no, not 0.01. Because it's 1, 2, so it's 0.1. What would it be in fraction? Yeah, it's 10. The percent symbol means over 100. So those cancel. So we have 1 over 10. %36%. What would that be in decimal? All right, so we move it 2 to the left. And then convert it to fraction. Just take that number divided by 100. Now simplify it. 2 goes into 36 how many times? 18 times. 2 goes into 100. There's still even numbers. 2 goes into 18. 2 goes into 50. They're both made up of prime numbers, so they don't cancel. 3 times 3, 5 times 5. So it's 9/25. Then the next one would be, I give you a fraction. 3 over 8. What would you convert there first? Can you make the bottom to 100? Because 8 is 2 times 2 times 2. So it's 2 to the third power. Right. So multiply top and bottom by 5 cubed. So what we have here is we have 5 cubed is 125. And on the bottom, we have 10 to the power 3. Three times 5 is 15. 7. 375 over 1,000. How do I know it's over 1,000? Because when you have a base 10, the exponent tells you how many zeros you have. So, since this is my fraction, what is my decimal equivalent? Right. Because there's 3 zeros, I take 375, the decimal's here, and I move it 3 to the left. Because there are 3 zeros. If there were 5 zeros, I'd go 2 more spaces. Now, how do I convert from decimal to percent? Yeah, move the space 2 to the right, and then percent. So I have 37.5%. $0.5. I gave you the decimal, so what's the easier way to go? Would it? No. So let's do this one first. We have, since it's only one space, it's over 10. Just, you doubted yourself. So what would it be in percent? Yeah, because from decimal to percent, move it 2 spaces to the right. So 0.5 becomes 50%. And then you keep on doing all the rest of these. Applications. Let's do some applications. What packets? What was the last packet I gave y'all? 8.2. All right, okay. Because I have 3 and 4 here for y'all. I'll have to make 0.2 for y'all. Okay. Okay, that's what I was hoping. Thank you. In a class of 30 students, 60% are girls. How many students are girls and how many are boys? So this is a word problem. We have to take the words and put it into a math equation. So what it's saying is telling us that 30 or 60% of 30 students equals girls. So we have to convert this to decimal. So what is 60% in decimal? In decimal. 0.6. 6 over 10 is still fraction. It's not a decimal. The word of means multiplication. So we multiply 60%, which is 0.6 times 30. The reason we're doing it this way, because remember earlier we taught the rules on how to multiply decimals. You don't want to change. The one thing you never want to do when you teach any subject to students is change what you've taught earlier. Always keep the same pattern, same process over and over and over. We learned how to multiply decimals. What's the rule for multiplying decimals? First, get rid of the decimal. How many spaces does it take? 1 space. We have to put that space back at the end. So now we have 6 times 30. 6 times 3 is 18 with 1 0. Now put that decimal back. 1 space. So 18 students are girls. How many boys do you have? Well, what do we know? We know boys plus girls has to equal 30 because there are 30 students in the classroom. and 18 of them are girls, how do we solve for B? So from both sides because of equality. So you can't do it. So we borrow 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. 2 minus 1. So there are 12 boys and 18 girls. Alice scored 24 out of 28 correct on a test. What is her percentage score? Or nowadays we say, today we'll say, what is the score? What is the grade? So how do we set this up? Because we're looking for percentage. What's the formula for percentage? It's part over total times 100. That's the formula for percentage. So the part was 24. Out of 28 questions. So we find a decimal for that and then change it to percent and multiply by 100. So can we simplify these? Yeah, they both have a 2 in common. Divide by 2, we get 12 and 14. Do it again. 6 divided by 7. Seven does not go in 6, so we have to put a decimal, and that makes it a 60. We put a decimal, put a 0. 7 goes into 60 how many times? 8 times 7. 56. Subtract. So we get 4. 7 goes into 40 how many times? 5 times 7 is 35. Subtract those. We get 5. 7 goes into 50. 7 times, that's 49. Seven goes into 10 once. Here's a question. Here's a question. How many decimals can we have here at the most? If it's a rational number.
Six,
Why 6?
because the denominator minus 1.
Very good. Because if it's a rational number, then the most decimals we'll have before it repeats itself is n minus 1 decimals. So we'll have 7 minus 1. So we have 4 here. Let's keep on going till we get a repeating number. So 7 goes into 30 4 times. That's 28. Seven goes into 20. That makes it 14. Because now this number is what we started off with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So now it's going to repeat itself. So this equals 0.857142 bar. Oops, sorry. Are we done? No, because we're supposed to put it in percent. How do we put it in percent? Multiply by 10. Or by 100, I mean, sorry. So let's move the decimal to the, so it's 85.7142. 857142. Wow. You have to, because we know it's always a repeating pattern, but since we move the decimal 2 to the right, we have to finish out that sequence before the pattern repeats itself. And then it always repeats itself. Yeah, this is, if we didn't get a repeating number after this number, then we're in trouble. Because then it would be an irrational number, which means there's no, could be no end and no repeating. We'd be in trouble. Example 17. Bella went to the zoo. That has, let's say has 84 cats. If the cats make up 21% of the animals, how many animals does the zoo have? This is a thinking question. If 21% of the animals equals 84, how many animals is there total? What we know here is this. We know the total number of animals times 21% of those animals equals 84. So let's call this X. X times 21% equals 84. So the total number of animals, 20% of those animals is 84. So if we can solve for X, we know all the animals. How do we get X by itself? Right. So divide both sides by 21%. But we can't divide by a percent. So we have to convert that into a decimal. Which would be 0.21. Very good. So now we have our division. What's our rule about dividing by decimals? Get rid of on the bottom. Get rid of all the decimals on the bottom. So we have to move them both 2 spaces because we're multiplying by 100 top and bottom. So this one becomes 21 goes into 8,400. How many times is 21 going to 84? 4 times that is 84. So we have 400 animals in our zoo. Last one. Example 18. Skis at a sport store near the slope are on sale for $476. If the original price was $560, what percent were they discounted? Now, whenever you're looking for a discounted, price increase or decrease, use this formula. Ending price minus beginning price divided by beginning price. Because if you do it this way, if it's a price decrease, then it's going to give you a negative number. That means it's a discount. If it's a price increase, the top is going to be positive, and then it's going to give you it's a price increase. So our ending price was $4.76. The beginning price was $5.60, and the beginning price was $5.60. So we see that the second number is bigger than the first, so the number is going to be negative, which since it's negative, that means it's a decrease in price. So what is 560 minus 476? Borrow one, so 10 minus 6 is 4. Can't do that. So 15 minus 7 is 8. So it's 84 over 560. Simplify your numbers. They're divisible by 2. So it's 42, 280. Divided by 2 again. So we got 21 over 140. Yeah, so divide by 7. Now, you could do 20 divided going to 3. But there's an easier way. What can you do now to make it easier? Yeah, because remember, our objective is get the bottom to be 100. If we multiply top and bottom by 5, we get 15 over 100, which is 0.15. Yeah, so multiply that. 0.15 times 100 equals 15%. Well, remember, this is supposed to be a negative number anyway, since we know it's a decrease because of that equation there. So it's a 50% discount. You wouldn't put the negative, but since the answer is negative, we know it's a 15% discount. If it was a positive number, it'd be a 15% increase. Do you ever use percents in the real world? Actually, not sometimes, should be always. Whenever you have any type of service, you should always tip. How do you tip? Remember, it's a service that they're providing you. And their salary usually isn't that high to begin with. They get most of their money from a tip. So yeah, if you get what you pay for. If you want better service next time you come to the place, if you frequent a place, a good safe number is also 20%. It's easy to calculate. So if your bill came out to be, let's say $100, what's 20% of 100? %20 of 100 is 20. So your total bill would be $100 plus 20 would be 120. Pretty much. If you can't afford that as a tip, don't go there. You don't have to tip at fast food. Again, it's common courtesy for those who are working there. How about if the bill was $235? What's 20% of that? The, Typically, the easiest way to determine a tip is move the decimal place over one spot and times 2. So $23.50 times 2 is $47. If you don't want to, if it's terrible service and you do 5 or 10%, you can do that as well. Only if you got everything taken care of you wanted during your meal, then you give them a good tip. If you had to wait for everything and they only came by once or twice, 10%. It's because again, you get what you pay for, they get what they earned. So that's the easiest way is move the decimal place over one, multiply by 2. All right, that's the end of that section.